It feels wrong to be talking about the Pandora Papers, because it's too early to make sense of it. Also, I am just a mechanical voice on the internet, trying to opine about the goings-on in the real world. How is it worthwhile to listen to this? Having said that, here's a quick lowdown. The Pandora Papers are a leak of almost 12 million documents that the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, published beginning on the 3rd of October 2021. The leak exposed the secret offshore accounts of 35 world leaders as well as more than 100 billionaires, celebrities, and business leaders. The documents are from 14 financial service companies, in nations including Panama, Switzerland and the United Arab Emirates. And mostly we get to know about the rich and famous buying expensive real estate like King Abudullah of Jordan, Blair of England, Putin of Russia and so on. And all that is good and fine, but what I really want to talk about are these tax havens, where all those offshore accounts are based. Like the Cayman Islands, or the Bahamas, or even Luxembourg. What do these tax havens do, and why do they exist in the first place? It's not that they are secret places. Everyone knows about them. Tax havens are a thing. A defining feature of some of these tax havens is that they are really small and rather picturesque islands, in the middle of nowhere, and without much by way of resources or people. And perhaps because of those constraints, it is hard for them to have a vibrant, growing economy. For example, no company will find it easy to set up a large car manufacturing plant on a small island in the middle of an ocean. So they don't. If the governments are not creative, the default for many of these small, isolated communities is to remain poor and underdeveloped. Which is never a good thing. So they tried to improve their lot, and some of them stumbled upon this fairly lucrative business of providing a home to the world's shady money. Now that is a controversial statement, and it may not be entirely accurate, but let's go with it for a bit. I can say such things, because I am a mechanical voice, droning on by myself, at some obscure corner of the internet. Also, none of this is advice of any sort. Anyway, moving on with the story. Notice also that these tax havens are close to some of the world's largest economies. The Caribbean islands of the Bahamas, the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, as well as the Central American country of Panama. They are all close to the gigantic economic center called the United States of America. Others like Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, Switzerland and Jersey are close to the other big economic centers, the Western European nations. And among them, the one shining the brightest, the fastest growing tax haven of the world, South Dakota, is a state in the US itself. You can't get any closer than that. South Dakota is weird, and not just because it is a state in the US. Their trust laws are famous, or notorious, depending on how you look at it. It is interesting that more people search the term Pandora Papers on Google in South Dakota than any other state in the US. In some ways, it is similar to the Caribbean islands. It has a small economy, not many people, and not much by way of resources. And it is surrounded by rich people and profitable companies. So why not do what the Caribbean islands are doing? Be a tax haven. Makes sense, I guess. Switzerland is different. The other weird offshore center is Switzerland. It is the OG, the grandfather of offshore finance, the gold standard, if you will. Back in the day, it used to be that if you have a Swiss bank account, you have arrived in life. You have made it, and now it's time to enjoy your circumstances. A large part of the Swiss economy, and a lot of its geopolitics revolves around its tax haven-ness. For example, its famous neutrality on the global stage is a well-thought-through strategy. It provides them with stability, as Switzerland doesn't take sides during conflicts. The country famously stayed neutral through the 2 world wars. Europeans saw that, and the rich people sent their money to Swiss banks for safekeeping, while everything around them was getting annihilated. It was good business for the banks. Switzerland continues to remain neutral, and is not even a part of the European Union. And its banks continue to remain a key destination for money from the world's elite. To be fair, one can imagine that Switzerland would have liked to be an equal opportunity offshore tax haven. That is, to attract money from all, irrespective of the fact that they are elites or not. Because, who doesn't want to save on taxes while keeping their money safe? There is a big market for it, and Switzerland is best placed to meet that demand. Also, it's not like they hate poor people. I mean, they are fairly active on the world stage, when it comes to helping the unfortunate and needy, across the globe. But the fact remains that non-elites, even regular single-digit millionaires, just don't have enough money. And that there may be too many of them to contend with. It just doesn't make business sense for Swiss banks. For example, a study found that around 50% of the assets hidden in havens by Scandinavians belong to the 0.01% wealthiest households, and 80% belong to the wealthiest 0.1%. Another study found similar results for Colombia. That is to say that rich people have money, and Switzerland is in the business of being a secret and secure vault for a lot of that money. It must be a good business to be in, because Switzerland is one of the richest nations in the world. To keep on attracting money from the elites, the Swiss moved quickly to embrace privacy and secrecy. The country has strict banking secrecy laws. They want bank employees to honor confidentiality, and not leak data. All is not bad. Have I painted an excessively negative picture thus far? Because all is not bad. It's not as if these offshore centers are just bad and entirely meaningless. There are legitimate use cases where they add real value. For example, the Cayman Islands is often used as a conduit to simplify taxes. A thing about tax laws across the world is that they can be convoluted. While there may be genuine reasons for all the complexity, there is some value in simplifying them. So imagine a world where there is a single rate of tax of, say, 10%, across the board for all individuals and all companies. And if you earn nothing, then you pay nothing. Someone earning $100 pays $10 to the government. Someone earning $1 billion pays $100 million to the government. In many ways, life is simple and clear. The government just has to ensure that people are not lying on their tax forms. Which is something that the Netherlands government does, by pre-filing tax forms for its citizens. And if you disagree with the government's pre-filled values, you'll have to provide some documents as proof. That's one way to do it. But I digress. You see, jurisdictions like the Cayman Islands help simplify global taxation. Here's a plain caricature. Big pots of money like pension funds, mutual funds, and university endowment funds may give some of it to hedge funds to invest. The hedge fund, which is a separate company, then goes and buys shares in a Taiwanese business, assembling iPhones. In this case, the money flowed from the pension fund, to the hedge fund, and finally to the Taiwanese company. After a while, it is now time to return the money. The hedge fund sells the Taiwanese company's shares, collects the money and pays capital gains tax to the government of Taiwan. As the hedge fund is a separate company based in America, it'll have to pay taxes on its income or gains to the American government. Finally, the money reaches the pension fund, which may also be required to pay taxes. In effect, the same money is taxed thrice. If the hedge fund is domiciled in the Cayman Islands, which does not charge any taxes on income or capital gains, there is a saving on taxes. The money is taxed at the investment company level, which in our case is in Taiwan, and also at the pension fund level, which in our case is in America. This is a legitimate and popular way of saving some taxes, using tax-neutral jurisdictions, like the Cayman Islands. All this is to say that the picture is more complicated than we would like it to be. As is the case most often, there are more shades of grey than just black and white. And maybe, we'll talk more about some of them in future videos, because that's it for this one. So, please give a like if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe if you haven't already, as that helps out the channel a lot. Thank you and I'll see you in the next one.